our first speaker and the creator of this and other events in which we participated is Massimo Lucidi, who's to my left, who is a journalist, someone who represents Naples in flesh and bones. He is Neapolitan by birth and by di nascita e di costume, as opposed to povero Dante when he was elsewhere. Massimo he's multifaceted. He's the founder of what's called the Italian Excellence Award in Washington, D.C., which is an award for merit and talents of Italians from around the world. He has created numerous events of this type, abroad especially, and the themes usually include something environmental, something economic, and something of social sustainability. So we'll hear a little bit about that this evening. And then our second speaker, and we have, not that Massimo will consider elder, not old. Massimo is the elder of the evening. And then we have a young and upcoming scholar, Dr. Pietro Tagliavini, he's graduated in philosophy, and this last year he's basically dealt with philosophy of mind and artificial intelligence. And today he's going to talk about the sort of meeting and conflict between liberty and law. And so I'm going to join Massimo. Massimo's going to be first. He's going to speak in Italian. He promises to translate as he goes along. But if I know one or two translators in the audience here, so we'll start now. Prego, it's all yours.
Grazie Anthony della tua affettuosa presentazione. Thank you everybody, thank you Anthony to have think and rethink again this event born in Vatican City last May. Why Vatican City? Because my foundation, I'm president of Innovation Foundation, is a Catholic foundation, but Catholic means open the minds to everybody. And so the first mind to open is mine. For this reason, liberty and freedom, I wait for your words to the final of this event, are our Western value. And I believe that now, not only unfortunately for the tragedy in Israel, I think the aggressive politics in Israel by Hamas, I think the aggressive policy, dramatic aggression of Ukraine by Russia, I think that in West talk about liberty now is very, very, very important. And we have to talk about liberty because we must understand the sacrifice to build our society. With these spirits, last 2 weeks ago, in Naples, we had another edition of Giornate Internazionali della Libertà. But first, I wanna share with you the sentiment about the Vatican, because in this Holy See building arrived Pega Moshimpur. Pega is an Iranian activist for human rights, and that emotion of Pega is the same, le urla, no? Le urla che abbiamo sentito di Noah l'altro giorno sulla motorbike portata via da questo signore di Hamas, questo individuo, sono le stesse urla, sono le urla della libertà. E credo che, io mi emoziono facilmente, quindi mi dovete scusare, excuse me for my emotion, because yeah.
The reactions of these people who were fired upon, so on and so forth.
The reaction is the same. Pega, Iranian, Israel, the same for Naples. During the Second World War, we had Napolitan people the first to say no to German troops, the first to say go away. Yateven is the word that you have to remember in famous movie of Nanni Loi. You can find the original spirit is always the same story, always the same story. È la dignità che fa grande un popolo. E I think that's this value, our value, the Western value, we have the must to renovate in time, because that's non sono conquiste per sempre. Ecco, la libertà è qualcosa che va costruita. Liberty and freedom need a continuous awareness and building together a new model of society. Today we talk about sustainability. I am the director for UNESCO magazine about sustainability, and for me it's a big honor, but it's a very big, incredible duty to realize a life for meeting around Italy, and not only Italy, to affirm this concept. But if you think the concept is the same, is the culture of life. Il Papa parla di sviluppo integrale della persona umana. Francis Pope talk always about sviluppo integrale della persona umana, che si dice, vuoi dirlo tu? Sviluppo integrale della persona.
Oh, I'm sorry. The development of the whole person, the person as a whole.
Ecco, the other person, sì, anche se la Olisi translate differently, much more emotional as mine, unfortunately, but his teacher and cold, but lo sviluppo.
If we say an integral person, then we get
integral,
bit,
yeah.
Then our language is really sort of brought to a different level, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that.
Lo sviluppo integrale della persona umana significa che noi non siamo numeri, o meglio, prima di essere qualunque statistica, siamo delle persone. E dunque parlare di libertà per le persone, if we talk about liberty and freedom for every man and woman, means a very long way to affirm, to believe, to grow in awareness, because I think that the awareness is one of the most important value of our democratic society. And unfortunately, I think that you, in this moment, think that our society is not really aware. Think about social. I have no mobile with me, but if you take your mobile, immediately you understand that you, me, we, for first, have a problem to awareness, because we are not aware when use this object many times. I think I take my mobile to realize an action, but immediately when I have this mobile on my hands, I do another thing. We are losing our awareness. I take the mobile to write to you, but I another message. No, I have to answer to her. But I took this mobile to answer to you, no to her. And so the awareness in our life, we are losing the awareness. We are losing the time to rethink. Think and rethink about our life, about our value, about our day. And so, for this reason, thank you so much, Anthony, because if we yesterday together have a party for Italian heritage along the Fifth Avenue, I asked you, and you immediately say okay with me, agree with me, to realize a moment of a deep but short, be happy, short reflection about this value. We have to stop and think, emotional language, I hope, to rethink our life. And so, if we think that liberty and freedom are just speech to realize, thinking Russia, thinking Tehran, no, sir. We have to talk liberty and freedom reflecting before on our Western society. Because Western society has the responsibility to have an effort to give the hope in the world, to give the word to people who has no word. And there are just time to cry for women in Tehran, for example. But the job, the mission of Innovation Foundation, believe me, is building and organizing this hope. And I have to thank you so much to my partner in Innovation Foundation, my guest, many allied, very important people who are improving our effort. And I have to say many thanks to young people who believe that there is another way to build a mission in foundation. And so, starting from the below, and no, the bottom up, yeah, bottom up, and no, just have message from the top. We need that build something now, in this moment, on the bottom of our heart. For this reason, I have to sign, to take note about next appointment in Brescia, that is the cultural capital for 2023. Because of this format, I want to repeat in Vatican City next year, in New York, in the capital in culture, in Italian capital culture. No, in Naples, because I was born there, but we have a lot of city to take this message in Italy, especially in South, especially where is the mafia mentality to fight, because there are most of people who are fighting against mafie, al plurale lo dobbiamo dire al plurale, in plural, mafie. We have to take to them the hope that this message of liberty and freedom could change the life. And so, finally, I could affirm something for our friends Anthony Tamburri, who could be correct, no more invitation here, or sustain, and so, in other words, share with us the Italian model of sustainability and excellence. Nel tuo saluto, in your introduction, you said that in Washington, D.C., you stay with us for, on Saturday, we stay together in Georgetown University. Believe me, my emotion, it's incredible for me because as all Italian, when you have an idea, an event, you start in a restaurant to realize a good event. This event, Premio Eccellenza Italiana, an award very appreciated in Italy and born in Caffè Milano, one of the most important location in DC to have party. For example, the wife of Mr. Obama usually stay in my ballroom where I organize the Premio Eccellenza Italiana. When we received the confirmation from Georgetown University to organize there inside Premio Eccellenza Italiana, I was very happy because I think that it's the beginning of a new walking together to an Italian model of sustainability and excellence. Please attention for this my sentence. I believe there is an Italian way to excellence and sustainability. I am not alone to believe this situation because we studied with Fondazione Simbola Foundation, very interesting. All documents are in English and are free. Fondazione Simbola, la I greca, la Y, thank you, quindi Simbola SYM. You can verify that there is an Italian way to improve our society through excellence and sustainability. Excellence and sustainability are the new value of freedom. The new value. Why the new value? Because if we have money to be sustainable, we could realize a better life for the planet, for our life, for our company. And so we studied that the family company, the Italian family company, very, very small company, are much more interested to foreign market 2-3 times French and Germany small company. Not family company, small company. Because we have the family. We have the family oriented to foreign market. Does make sense? It's a very important message. And so, in other words, the tradition of a family become a value for future. It's not my opinion. There are many research about it. And for this reason, I entered in main university in Italy, in Milan and in Rome. For this reason, I suppose Georgetown University is really interested about Premio. Because Premio, the word is just a moment of this different storytelling. We need a different Italian storytelling. And so it's good that we realize a parade along Fifth Avenue, along Park Avenue, Central Park, New York, pizza, mandolino, festa, bellissimo, bellissimo. But we need a moment about it as this moment where lady write Simbola Foundation and verified what I said. You think family corporation and say it's true. Because in the family, at evening, when we have dinner together, we talk again about our job. And so we are ready to answer the new opportunity and the new risk of environment that is changing so fastly. Does make sense? You believe me? Yeah, you believe me. Ok, thank you. È vero. E allora sembra che vi abbia potuto spiegare in inglese quelle che erano le principali convinzioni che volevo portarvi. Però ve ne aggiungo una, ma proprio molto alla garibaldina, anche perché parlerò di Garibaldi, 2 minuti di orologio e poi diamo la parola a questo giovane di qualità. Ne ho diversi di giovani di qualità, ma Pietro sicuramente è il personaggio, il filosofo del gruppo. L'altro abbiamo detto che è un Harry Potter e l'altro ancora è un risolutore a tutte le ore. Domani tra l'altro parleremo di benessere, quindi vi invitiamo domani all'Istituto Italiano di Cultura, quindi tomorrow at 10 we invite you to Italian Cultural Institute on Park Avenue, you know, I suppose, because we talk about benessere, another project, another activity, because projects are blah 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 blah. We have many activities in Italy, very famous teacher, Professor Piretta, you can look, you know him through Rai, because every day with Bruno Vespa he has speech in porta a porta, porta a porta. L'ultima idea è questa. Maybe I try to say that there is an Italian model to arrive to freedom and liberty. Now it's a look like as a slogan. Nice, Italian model, nice. No, if you believe that for Risorgimento, you studied story, Italian story, and you know, I'm sure that you know much more better Italian story that Italian live in Italy, because you have many meeting here about story, and so you remember and you can confirm that Giuseppe Garibaldi in life wasn't a very recognized hero for everybody, because Garibaldi was Garibaldi for me, but not for you. He was enemy for you. He was a big enemy for you, your idol. Iconic person as Garibaldi could be an Italian way. Yeah, could be an Italian way. But I think that the young people of Ventotene, Altiero Spinelli, that Italian hero and founder of European community, could be an Italian model, an Italian way. We can talk about Italian way to improve the road to liberty. I like say yes. I like say yes because for my think is a very good idea. My family, I'm called Lucidi, but for the surname San Felice, if you write San Felice, you can find in history of Brazil that San Felice fight for freedom in 17th century against Holland crown. And so there are many Italians who fight for freedom and liberty. That's my personal opinion. An Italian model about excellence and sustainability is a fact. Opinion, fact, there are differences. I put to this table with great respect and sentiment of thank you very much, Anthony, my opinion also. With the last word. The last word is our deep heritage, Catholic heritage, and it was incorrect last years to disappear the word Catholic Christian origin from European constitution. Because when European cristiani, sì, perché le origini cristiane, no, dalla Costituzione europea non c'è proprio la parola, cioè il cristianesimo. Il cristianesimo è fondamento del nostro Occidente. Togliere la parola origine cristiana del continente fu un delitto che ancora oggi, secondo me, continua a fare danni. Chiaramente questa è un poco più di una opinione, e quindi i primi erano fatti, i secondi erano delle opinioni, questo è poco più di un'opinione, lascerò a te la conclusione, così vediamo se mi riguadagno un invito a tornare. Voglio ringraziare, I wanna thank you so much for your presence, every people who are in this moment with me, but I wanna thanks Monsignor Vincenzo Paglia, who started with us in Vatican City and encourage and say hello to everybody in New York, and many thanks to Anthony, the President Ezio Bonanni of National Observatory about the pollution, because he works every day for awareness of people against the problem of this pollution, and it's a very important question for liberty and freedom. And finally, Francesco Giubilei, president of another important foundation, Tatarella, who has sent a video message that we have opened this meeting. Thank you so much, everybody. And for me, it's a great pleasure to ask to Pietro to have his speech, not just a law, but a very important speech in New York, because the young people are our hope, and our effort are in their hands.
I will try to make not a comparison, but we will talk about the link between freedom and laws. You know, it's a huge topic. Many times we ask ourselves, what is freedom? If I ask you now to write down an answer, probably no one of you will give the same answer to the others, because everyone has an idea, a personal idea of freedom, you know. And many think that freedom is something that has to do with rights and duties. So we have our own duties, and satisfying them, we can afford our rights. Okay, so there is a link between duties and rights. Other things that freedom, liberty, stays in the possibility of being guilt, of free ourselves from a system of laws. So we are free because we can decide to follow a rule, but also not to follow it. And other, again, things that freedom has to do with death. An eternal being, God, cannot be free, because it cannot be a slave, and it cannot die. Because many times the freedom has to do with physical constraints. So when we are slaves because we do not have the freedom to move, to go wherever we want. And so, and this is not only a physical constraint, but it is only a mental constraint many times. So there is a freedom of our mind. Of course, I cannot touch all these topics here, and I cannot give you satisfactory answer, because I don't have them, but I can raise some problems, as usually philosopher do. And I want to start between a comparison. You know, there are some written laws, and there are some not written laws. In ancient Greek, written laws are said agraphoi nomoi, and not written laws are said, written laws are graphoi nomoi, and not written laws are agraphoi nomoi. And written laws are the laws of our system, for example, the laws that a government give to us. And not written laws are the one that today we would call maybe the laws linked to human rights, for example. So there are some values every human being has, since it is a human being, and we cannot avoid to consider them. Every day, in every moment, we have to do with people, not with objects. Before Professor Lucidi talked about people and numbers. We are not numbers. We have a value, and this value has to do with our essence of human being. That it's not linked with the system of rules. It's something that is bigger. It goes beyond. And many of you know the story of Antigone, from Sophocles. And you know that from there it starts a debate about which is the rule we have to follow. Do we have to follow the written rules or not written rules? In a situation in which I can decide. I have to decide. I follow written rules or not. I do not follow it. So Antigone has this problem. Because Antigone has two brothers, Eteocle and Polynice, and you know that Polynice fought against Thebe, his city, and Eteocle, the other brother, defended Thebe. And when they both die during the war, the ruler of the city, Creonte, decided not to bury Polynice because he was fighting against his city, his own people. So it was against the laws, fighting against your people. But Antigone, the daughter of Oedipus and the sister of Eteocle and Polynice, does not think the same of Creon, the ruler of Thebe, and say, no, I know that Polynice fought against my people and fought against us, but he is my brother. I cannot but bury him, as well as I will bury Eteocle, the other brother. So we have this kind of problem. And in the literature, you find that Antigone is like an heroine, is the one who we have to defend, is the one that deserve our compassion, deserve our support, and so on and so forth. But now I want to ask you, take Creon, the ruler. You are the ruler of the city. You have an enemy, a huge enemy, and this enemy is because it happens that Polynice was the nephew of Creon, because Creon was married with the sister of Oedipus, the father of Polynice. If you do not follow me, raise your hands, and I try to explain again. So Creon was there, and he is first of all a ruler. And the rules said that who fought against the city do not have the right to receive a proper burial. At this point, be it your son, your nephew, the rule is the rule. And as a ruler, because if Polynice had won the war, he would have entered in the city and killed his people. But that's against the moral rule. So we have a problem. In both cases, if we defend the not moral, the moral rules, not written rules, or if we defend the written rules, we take a risk in both cases. It's not that Creon didn't want to bury his nephew. Maybe he wanted, but he couldn't according to the laws. And as a ruler, he couldn't go beyond because it was his nephew. When, for example, imagine you are the prime minister of Italy. Okay, if your son commit an homicide, you cannot say, "Oh no, it's my son," so we cannot punish him. So we have a huge problem, and Creon is the loser in this contrast, because in the end, he lost the nephew, but he lost also the son, because the son of Creon was in love with Antigone, and when he discovered that Antigone was going to die, he decided to kill himself. So in the end, personally, we cannot say that Creon was free. We cannot say, because he ruins his life with choosing, and also Antigone. We cannot say the same, because he chose not to follow the rules, so to go against the rules, to be guilt, but at the same time he ruined her life. But freedom has to do with ruining life. And how can we accommodate the written rules and not written rules? Today we have the same problem, because we in Western democracies, we want to find in medio stat virtus, so a middle point between the moral rules and the written rules. And this happens after the Second World War, because also Nazism had its rules, but they were not moral rules, And after the Second World War, we decided to written these rules in a paper, the human rights paper, the Declaration on the Universal Rights of Human Being. And so these rules, this set of rules, are the set of rules that identify every one of us. But today, these rules are not respected in many states, in many countries. For example, we were talking about Iran. Pega Moshirpour came to us and tell us that many girls are killed because they decided not to stand against the rules, so not to follow the rules. We had the example of Hamas in these days. Of course, Palestinians have a lot of problems with Israeli people, and they are suffering too. But Hamas is a terroristic entity and has not to do with Palestinian. They are Palestinian, but we have to distinguish the two of them. And still, they commit homicides. They kill more than 200 people, and they take hostages. So this is cruel, and it's not shareable. We cannot take a stance in favor of Hamas only because it's Palestinian. No. This is, two different things. And also here, we Westerners say, okay, but according to a set of rules, they are right. So also this, we speak about what is right and what is not right. In the sense that according to their rules, if they have any, but they are theocracies, not democracies, according to their rules, they are following a set of bounds, of constraints, in which they identify, in which they believe in, and which they believe in. And so how can we say to them, okay, but this is not right, this is not, because they can say, okay, but for us it's right. Okay, you do not want to take the burqa, okay, you die, because our rules say you have to take the burqa. But for us, it's not right. So we have a problem also. Is it really the problem, the link between rules, written rules and not written rules? Professor talked about Christian church and about, Catholicism. And you know that in philosophy, most of the time we doubt about everything, so we doubt also about God. But there is a principle on which our modern democracy is founded. And the first person who conveyed that principle was Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ was the first in the whole world to say that every human being, as a human being, is equal to everyone else in front of a law, be it written or not written. This does not mean that we are all equal, that I equal to professor, I equal to you, to you, to you. No, we are all different. But he's saying that in front of a law, we must know that whatever it be our social situation, the law will be applied the same to me, to you, and to you. So we have an equality for what concern the respect of the law and how the law is applied to us. So I can be the nephew of Creon, I can be a poor person, but still, if there is a law to be applied, the law apply equally. So this is the point on which democracy is based. I don't know whether this is a good point, because you know, in 1900, a philosopher, Hegel, say, okay, this is the most powerful point of democracy, but at the same time is also the weakest one. Why? Because if we are born all on the same level, we have all a lot of possibilities. But there are discrepancies, because a guy who is born in Manhattan has not the same possibility of a guy born in the slum of Dharavi in Bombay, you know, where they do not earn money. Maybe they have to work at 5 years old to earn something. So we have a lot of differences, and this is a consequence of democracy, because the point of democracy is that everyone has the right to be equally disequal to the other. I don't know if it does make sense, but this is, I mean, paraphrasing Hegel, the main point. And in this situation, it's very difficult for some people, for the poor people, we can say, of the low level of society, have the same possibility of the people that are born in the high level, okay? But at the same time, we can say that if everyone consider that every human being has a value that is not the value that he has as a physical person and has endowed with a right in within a state, which can be Italy, which can be Iranian, but all these values goes beyond the value of a person as a citizen. So we have values as people, I mean. And we start to think about that every person, if it is true that it can be equally disequal to the other, can decide whether follow a rule or not, in respect of the others, and in respect of this we can call them the moral rules. You know, at this point we can say, okay, maybe they are not following the rules of their country, but if a girl, Iranian girl, does not want to take to dress the burqa, we can't say that he is susceptible of being murdered because he does not want to. She does not want to. Why? Of course, she's not respecting the rules, but she's not doing nothing in order to prevent the possibility of other people to follow those rules. Plus, she is respecting the universal rules, the human rights, we can say rules, and according to those rules, there is nothing that prevents her to dress the burqa, for example. This is a very simple example. You know, what happened in Hamas, and I do not want to talk a lot because there are a lot of things to say. First, we would need an historical background because, you know, it's very complex, the situation. Many of you had followed it, and I'm sure you know also more than me about it. But what is happening? It's a clear example of the fact that there is no clear-cut definition of freedom, and also that there is not a clear-cut idea of what freedom as a value, of what freedom as a value is for a human being. There are discrepancies, but the fact that there is a definition does not help. It can be a definition, okay, you can find me the best definition you want, but still there are some people that does not think the same of us, for example, and this is the proof. We love diversity, we love differences, and so on and so forth. But, and I'm going to conclude, there is a point that, in my opinion, is quite important. And this point, I will use one of the best resources I have, and it's literature, because I love literature, and we had an event about literature and freedom, you know. And this example is taken from Slaughterhouse No. 5 by Kurt Vonnegut. I don't know if you read it. in this book, it's the story of a survivor of the Second World War, of the bombing of Dresda. And at one point, the author, Kurt Vonnegut, described the office of the protagonist. And he's an optic. And in this office, at one point on the wall, there is a canva, and on the canva there is a prayer. This prayer was written by a theologist in, I think, at the beginning of the 20s. So it is antecedent of Kurt Vonnegut, Slaughterhouse Number 5. But he decided to put it on this, we can say, panel, canvas. And it says that, God, give me the serenity to accept what I cannot change, the courage of change what I can, and in the end, the knowledge to recognize the difference between what I can change and what I cannot change. We cannot change what is the moral. We cannot change all the definition, all the things, all we did till today, all we have done, unfortunately. But now there is a situation that we cannot only watch. I mean, it's and this is the aim of our events. We want to not educate people, but give them reason to start to think a lot about the situation. So not give them instruments, because instruments we find them wherever, in every moment, but give them the possibility in this situation not to rely on the surface of things, but go in the deep. Because many times the absence of knowledge and also the absence of courage, which is grounded on the absence of knowledge of what is happening, prevent us to act and to say, okay, there is a situation that, even if it's very far from us, but it's a situation that we can watch, because those people are really dying, and those people can be ours. And it's not that there is their people, my people, and your people. It's that we are, you know, that during the pandemic, Chinese people send us some masks. And on the mask there was written, "We are all waves of the same sea," something like that, or leaves of the same tree. So you know, we are all people. So there is a sense in which we can find a common value of the word freedom for everyone. And which is this value? So this is the question. Which is this value? Everyone has his definition of freedom. We have seen, but which is this value? 1 minute. The value is 1 minute. Yeah, actually the value is time. You know? And this is the value, in the sense that we do not have to prevent people to organize their time as we want, as they want, and we do not have to prevent people to live their life cutting their time. The line, you know, that in ancient Greece there was the 3 parche are called, and one used to long tessere, come si dice?
Weave.
To weave, okay, the line, and the other one to make the measure, and the third one to cut it when it was time. This is not this is not something we can control. So so yes, it's physical in a sense, but at the same time, the same holds for every situation. You, for example, you. It's not that I can decide what you will do, so cut your time about the decision to cut your... So yeah, I think that there is no proper answer, but of course it's a question of time. It's always a question of time. You know, one of the most important texts in the 20th century is Being and Time, and it's of Heidegger, and you can say, but Heidegger adhered to Nazism. It's true. So from that, I will cut him off. But the text is quite interesting, and there are some interesting intuition about being in time. And it's interesting, you know why? Because on the whole text is not speaking about time, but the text is being and time. Time has to do with our being, okay? So, and so if we start to concentrate on time as a value, the inestimable value we have, having our time, that we can lose, we can use, and we can dedicate, which is the best thing. So if we start to control all the three things, in using the time, at work, for example, of course, someone has to control you if you are under someone that is controlling, for example, a big farm, a big industry, and so on, a big factory, and so on and so forth. There is someone. But no one can decide how you will dedicate time. Also, you will waste, sometimes it's better that someone control how we waste time, because many times we waste time without reason. But no one can decide how we dedicate time to other people or to other activities, the activities we want, the activities that make us happy. So about these three things, we can start to think about freedom as a way of not controlling the dedication that other people decide, the dedication of time that other people decide to apply to the time the other people decide to dedicate to other things first, and second to others, and third, the most important, to themselves, so in what they believe in. This is, I think, what we can say. It's in itinere, so I haven't know the solution of all the problems. Fortunately, I would say. Otherwise, life would be not worth to be lived, because there are also problems and are there to be solved. But still, remember that it's a question of time, as my speech has hand. But I'm happy of how I dedicate my time to you. So I hope you will be happy also to dedicate time to. So thank you.
So I'm just going to make a few comments that may seem disjointed, but I don't think they are. The first thing, and I say this seriously, I'm not being a smart aleck, but two, as I listen to our guests, about freedom and time. Two rock groups come to mind. Two rock songs come to mind. One is, of course, "Time" by the Chambers Brothers, and if you remember that, And the other one is, of course, Janis Joplin with regard to freedom. If you remember what Janis Joplin said about freedom, freedom is just another word for nothing left to lose, right? So, and it was said in a time when actually there was a great deal of freedom. In the 60s and 70s, freedoms to express, even though there was a lot of resistance. I think one of the things to take away is the fact that we need to hold on to our knee and make sure it doesn't jerk when we hear things against, without which with which we do not agree. And I think that in some ways, the entertainment, some in the entertainment world might be thinking and rethinking the whole idea of liberty and freedom. If you look at some of the programs that come across our Netflix and Prime and things of that sort, it's quite curious and intriguing, intellectually intriguing, to see what comes across. I thought of one of the first things I thought about freedom and about the idea of I was going to use the word discrimination, but not in the negative sense, in the idea of discernment and discernment and discrimination, and the idea of you guys didn't use this term, but this is what you were talking about, quote unquote brotherly love and generosity towards others. There's and at the base of all of this is the 4 days of Naples and the whole idea of the Naples freeing itself, right, from the Germans and things of that sort. There's a very interesting, I don't use that word interesting a lot, but there's a very interesting, in that it piques one's interest, show on Netflix right now called Pacific. Not the Pacific, just Pacific. Are anyone aware of that? Okay. It's about the Marines, 1943 to 1945, in the Pacific, and the war against Japanese. And we just get an array of emotions, mostly from the United States GIs, but we get an array of emotions that sometimes we go, oh man, really? Like he's really acting that way? Just the sort of worst behavior one could have towards, quote unquote, the enemy, that is the Japanese that they may catch. And then instead there is the other Marine who tries to correct the behavior of the Marine who's not too nice to the Japanese. And I think that, for that, I don't know what the timing is, because a show like that takes a good year and a half, if not 2 years, to write, to put into production. And when you look at it, the production is pretty intricate in ways that the camera work, everything is pretty intricate. So there's a whole bunch of editing that obviously takes place in this series. But of course it reminds us today of what's going on in the world, not so much, of course, what just happened in the Middle East, but what's going on in Ukraine. Ukraine was supposed to be that 3-day skirmish, quote unquote, that Russia was going to take over in 3 or 4 days. And instead, what do we find? We find that this so-called superpower can't do it, can't deal with it, can't take over. And in spite of all the ways in which it has, we might say, violated certain international conventions of war, right? But it still can't do it. And that, I think, is really food for thought, both in the specifics of what is going on, but also in a general sense, So I think we, if anything, our friends are calling us to engage in profound thought that has a Judeo-Christian base, whether we, whatever we want to think about that, profound thought in the Judeo-Christian, that is sort of the base of, at least we say it is the base of Western civilization. And discernment, the idea of making sure that we try to distinguish, we engage in some sort of act of distinction. And I had a couple of other sort of popular culture references, but I'm going to stop for now. I was happy to hear Pietro reference literature. It's classical, of course, but I was happy to hear him reference literature, because I think that literature in many ways is the sort of mirror of society, and we we need to think of literature in an canonical way and not in a canonical and not in a canonical way, so that we can really get a full view, or as full a view as possible, of what people are trying to say.
Very interesting talk. I want to start just by picking up on what Dean Tamburi said. Freedom is not having anything to lose. The lack of freedom is buying on credit. When you have a mortgage, you can do anything you want, but if you have a mortgage, car payments, paying on an iPhone, you're no longer free. But I think if you, and I don't know if this is a question or a comment or a hybrid, but I agree with you when you say that if you isolate freedom and try to define it, you end up chasing your tail. I've always thought of freedom as instead within a field of contention. If you don't mind me taking it from ancient Greece to the US of A, right? The founding values of this country are life, liberty, liberty, justice, and equality. And you can't have all three. That's why you can't have absolute unregulated laissez-faire capitalism. You can't have the freedom to create a toxic dump next to my house. So the freedom has to be limited. Otherwise, there's no justice. And then the problem with equality is when someone says, my lawyer can beat up your lawyer. If you can afford better legal representation, then that undermines justice. And so freedom, I think, has to be defined within that context. And also, and excuse me if this is a civics lesson, but you know, a civics lesson. You know, come back to my junior high school. Okay, a previous millennium. All right, I won't tell you which one, the first or the second, but you know, the very first words that this country was founded on. No, we hold these truths to be self-evident, and the self-evident truths were not civil rights; they were human rights. Okay, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Now, we have the Statue of Liberty here in the harbor. And, you know, a lot of us are here. My grandparents came through Ellis Island. And so now we have, you know, this crisis at the border, which really is an identity crisis for this country. Because the right to come here isn't a civil right, something that you acquire through citizenship. It's a human right. And the people who want to come here are human beings. And they want to come here to pursue happiness. And if we hold these truths to be self-evident, that our Creator gave us the right to pursue happiness, you know, stopping them, putting them in cages, separating children from their families, depriving them of freedom. Because if people in jail do time, I don't know what Heiger said about that, but you know that's the expression. So what we have here is this field of contention in which we try to define freedom. It's like, well, you know, it's like the spectrum, right? Where colors on the spectrum don't have a definite definition, but they're defined in terms of what surrounds them.
You talk about limitation, about definition. There is an interesting paper. It's written by Maurice Weitz, and it's about art as an open concept. So we cannot say what art is, and it's a concept we apply, and it defines, not defines, but inside the scope of the word art, we can put a lot of things. And this is linked with another consideration of Wittgenstein, and Wittgenstein wrote that there are some words we use, but we do not know very well which is the meaning. And then there are some words we do not know very well the meaning, but we know what they are not, for example. And in the case of freedom, we cannot say what it is. But there is a sense, of course there are limitations, but freedom can be, it's linked with a being which, with a being who fullness is his lackness. I mean, we are lacking beings, we have a lot of shortcomings, we try to make up for these shortcomings, and freedom is possible only to such a being, not to others, and not to perfect beings. So limitation are paramount. And there is a line, it's limits are the confini, is borders, yeah, right, are the borders within which we can move. I would say that maybe with what we do here, raising some doubts, speaking, sharing concept, and so on and so forth, we can make people more aware of what is happening, and of course, the awareness about the limits make us understand also that some things, according to the system of laws, are inevitable, and those things you say, according to the system of laws, unfortunately, I do not have time to explain why. What? Las gridano, okay. But there are some things that are inevitable. So we function in this sense, like we have a system of premises. From those premises, it cannot happen but what you said in your question. And unfortunately, from the premises we had, it cannot happen but what you have said. So in this sense, okay, we have this limitation. How can we move within these limits and with this limitation, and how we can consider freedom? So according to what you have said and what I have said, we can say that we do not have a proprietor, a conception of properties that identify the word freedom, but still we have some values we can identify what for us freedom is and which value it has. And one of them, in my opinion, is the consideration of the time as such the value I told you before, and maybe also what Professor Tamburi has said and what you have said about freedom. So we can find a way to accommodate the three. Go.
L'invito d'oggi si riferiva al tema delle Quattro Giornate di Napoli. Che è successo? Nessuno ha detto niente, sono venuta per questo scopo. Perché nessuno ha detto niente su questo tema? Brevemente.
No, io ho parlato delle 4 giornate di Napoli perché noi abbiamo fatto un focus la settimana scorsa, praticamente 10 giorni fa, giusto 10 giorni fa, a Napoli c'era questo importante anniversario. Quest'anno corrono 80. Che peccato. Aspetti, però si fa presa a dire la settimana scorsa. A Napoli era il giorno 25, 24 settembre. Il 23 settembre, perché dal 26 al 30 di settembre ricorrevano gli 80 anni dalla liberazione che il popolo insorse per ridare dignità alla invasione dei tedeschi che dopo l'8 settembre avevano preso possesso della città, con qualche scarso momento di eroismo e con una strana situazione che si creò a Napoli attorno al 10, 11, 12 settembre, perché si abbracciarono le truppe tedesche con quelle italiane, quasi come se la guerra fosse finita. E allora che cosa è successo a Napoli? Io ve lo devo raccontare in italiano, sia per brevità, sia per cercarvi di passare l'emozione. Gli storici sono tutti d'accordo che ci furono questi due momenti, quindi ci fu sia chi si abbracciò subito con gli italiani, sia chi invece poi diede l'ordine che gli italiani avevano tradito e quindi bisognava occupare la città. E di fronte all'occupazione tedesca la città subito insorse. Mentre Nanni Loi ha raccontato molto il fatto che fossero bambini quelli che si distinsero per atti eroici, quindi ricordiamo Gennaro Capozzo, gli storici poi un po' più, avveduti e meno passionali rispetto all'opera del film, che comunque rimane una meravigliosa opera, andatelo a vedere, è libero su internet, Le 4 giornate di Napoli di Nanni Loi. La storiografia dopo c'è tornata e devo dire ha messo le cose in ordine. Quindi ci fu una insurrezione veramente sentita e popolare, alla quale partecipò larga parte della popolazione, ma non c'erano soltanto i ragazzini, erano pochi i ragazzini che insorsero. C'è la storia di Gennaro Capozzo completamente confermata, tra l'altro gli hanno anche dedicato una via nel quartiere di Fuorigrotta dove c'è lo stadio, però devo dirvi anche la verità che la pagina più bella resta quella del film, perché quando al fianco delle truppe che comunque qualcuno aveva mantenuto i suoi panni, a fianco dei carabinieri, ricorderete Salvo d'Acquisto, che di quei giorni, ma un po' più lontano da Napoli, quindi c'erano ancora delle persone che avevano dignità per la propria divisa. Ci fu questa scena del film che secondo me è il vero leitmotiv che ha colto il regista, cioè le donne gridarono arripigliammoci l'uomo nostro, quindi questa voglia di bloccare il rapimento dell'uomo che doveva essere deportato in Germania. Quindi le donne, c'è questa scena bellissima, questo urlo delle donne, questo urlo di libertà, e fa consonanza con il grande incontro in cui il popolano di Bagnoli, che comanda gli insorti ed era vestito come uno straccione, si incontra con il comandante della piazza napoletana, tedesco, perfetto, elegantissimo in questa divisa, che chiaramente parlava come un generale, un ufficiale tedesco, quindi parlava con uno stile che chiaramente il popolano non poteva avere. E allora alla richiesta dice: ma che cosa gli vuoi dire a questo ufficiale tedesco? E io ci volesse dire che se ne andai e basta. Noi volimmo pace, basta che se ne vanno. Ecco, in quella semplicità del messaggio, no? Basta che ve ne andate, c'è tutta la poesia del film che fa la fotografia, e quindi c'è tutta la poesia del popolo napoletano. Io credo che in queste due immagini mettano a posto il momento che ho dato per scontato, perché noi abbiamo dedicato un evento a Napoli. Però dopo magari mi trattengo molto volentieri con lei per sottolinearle qualche altro momento. Tra l'altro, se andate a vedere chi erano gli attori, insomma, veramente resta un capolavoro questo film di Nanni Loi, e si fa sempre molta emozione a vederlo. Io voglio ringraziare Riccardo Giordano Buono, che è questo giovane milanese che ha realizzato per la fondazione questo estratto dal film di Nanni Loi, che trovate disponibile su YouTube. Se voi mettete fondazione, veramente vi verranno le lacrime. Pensate, perché in un film di quasi 2 ore lui ha recuperato 12 minuti profondamente belli, che sono un invito a vedere il film, perché vi racconta le cose toccanti, queste, ma ve le racconta senza dirvi come va a finire. Quindi vedrete una fucilazione senza i colpi di fucile, vedrete dei bambini, vedrete delle vittime, vedrete delle persone che magari se la caveranno, magari no, e quindi vorrete andare a vedere il film. L'ho costruito molto bene, però ha colto i punti salienti. Quindi bravo a Riccardo, che domani poi torna protagonista all'Istituto Italiano di Cultura.